Oh, hooray! Have you been waiting to see my face? I know you have been. I don't know where my seat. Okay, my seat. One of them they get me down. I'm back up. Okay, guys. So I feel that you have been waiting to see my face, and you have been waiting for today's conversation. I mean, I'm feeling somehow about today's conversation actually, because of the topic in question. That word is not something a lot of us like to hear. The word cancer is not the word that a lot of people would like to hear, including me myself. And today I have someone with me who has survived. I mean, when you hear about stage 4 cancer, to the layman or to those of us who are not in the medical field, or even to anybody, I mean, based on the things that we have been hearing, when you hear that someone has even stage 3 cancer, it's assumed that the individual should just prepare himself for death. But today I have someone who has survived stage 4 cancer, and she's here with us to share with us her travails, what she went through, dealing with the emotions of cancer burden. I can tell you for a fact when I had the accident in 2019 and I was in the hospital awaiting surgery, I can say for a fact how my life came to a stop because that accident happened while I was in Lagos. I had a lot of things planned out before me. I had events to attend, I had speaking gigs, I had coaching sessions, I had trainings, I had individuals I needed to attend to. I had my family, for example, my family. Um, and so the accident happened and brought everything to a halt. I was supposed to have two speaking engagements that very day, one on the island in Lagos and the other one on mainland in Lagos. I was on my way to the one on the island to be able to speak there and then return to the mainland to speak before calling it a day. I had my books even inside. People had bought my books while I was doing a pre-order of my books that period. I also had my books in in the boot of the car, to meet individuals who had bought the book in Lagos and wanted to meet them and hug them. Everything came to a standstill when that car had the accident on the Third Mainland Bridge in Lagos. And then I came back to Port Harcourt, awaited surgery, had surgery. I mean, the emotions, the pain, the trauma, the things that I went through at the time is not something you want to wish on any individual. And so today, the thing is that life can throw a curveball at you. I've seen individuals who went through life, never had disease issues, just like the oldest man in my village, never had blood pressure, never had kidney disease, never had anything, never had heart issues, and the man lived up to 90 something and then he died. But some other individuals don't find it so easy. I mean, there could be issues with their health and a whole lot before they now exit the earth. But today we have someone with us in our midst, a beautiful young woman for that matter, who went through the travails, and today she's been cancer free for 5 years, and she's going to be speaking to us. So if you've got issues you're dealing with, maybe someone who's going through the same situation, maybe who has diagnosis, or someone who has terminal disease, maybe her story can inspire faith and hope. I believe that it can. And so that's why I'm making welcome my guest today on this conversation. Beautiful lady. As you can see her face and her smile. I mean, I've been admiring her flyer since she sent me the flyer and gone through her posts and seen her pictures. I want her to pronounce her name by herself because I don't want to mispronounce the name. Okay. All right. So
Well,
welcome. Welcome.
thank you. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Nobis. That's quite the introduction. Thank you for the compliments and good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. So, my name is Dr. Izunwa Amadasun. I'm from Edo State in Nigeria. A medical doctor, also for the healthcare business, and I'm a personal finance coach and educator as well. And yes, wow, just listening to you, give your story about your accident, which I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing that. But yeah, a lot of the things that you said are spot on because we go about life, we make plans, we say we're going to do this today, we're going to do this next week, and all, but all of that can come to a grinding halt at any moment. And it's when events like this happen in life that you feel like, okay, understand that you really are not in control of everything. And so, I mean, for me, I was just going about being a doctor. Um,
Okay, doctor. Before you proceed, because I want to give you the floor so that you can go ahead and share. So guys, if you're here, let's know where you're tuning in from. I am in the city of Port Harcourt. Dr. Zunwa is in United States of America, and she's sharing with us via live stream. So if you are here, please let us know where you're tuning in from. Drop in the comment section where you're from, and then you can go ahead and tag your friends and tell them to be part of the live stream, and be part of this. I mean, nobody's wishing to go through these moments, but when we listen to the stories of individuals, they can properly help us to put things into perspective and perhaps plan for the future, just in case it happens. I mean, every one of us, we always say, God forbid, and we pray and say these things shouldn't happen. But I mean, there are individuals who have prayed and it happened, and there are those who never prayed and it didn't happen. I mean, those who also didn't pray and it happened. So life, nobody knows, And so the stories can inspire hope and faith, so that when we are going through our own valley moments, we can depend on this kind of stories to inspire ourselves to get to the finishing line. So go and invite your friends, tag them to be part of the session, tag them as I will leave the screen right now for Doctor to just go ahead and unleash and share with us her experience and dealing with the emotions of cancer and other adversities in life. All right. Thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you, thank you, thank you,
It's
everyone.
over.
Yeah. So yeah, like you actually said, nobody prays for bad things. Nobody wishes for bad things to happen to them. But then it's just part of life. Adversities are part of life. There are the ups, and then there are the downs. And sometimes the downs can be really, really low. For me, having to deal with stage 4 cancer was definitely the lowest point in my life. And it just came out of the blue, right? I was going about being a medical doctor. At the time, I was working at the pediatrics hospital of University of Benin Teaching Hospital. And it was just there, just being resident and all. But then in December of 2016, which is when everything began to unravel, I started off by noticing that there was some blood in my stool, right? So my blood, in my stool, I could see streaks of blood, which was a bit weird. Some kind of strain when I had bowel movements and all. Um, and I mean, in the course of that year, every like now and again, now this is something I didn't piece together before, but every now and again, I would just have this, um, I call it very out of the blue case of diarrhea. So maybe a day or two, but then it goes off. There was no real pattern or anything to it, right? And then when this happened, when I now started seeing blood, and then it was like another phase of diarrhea, my first thought was, okay, I probably caught an infection. Thanks to the kids I work with, this is something that can easily happen. I mean, I've gotten a bad case of tonsillitis before. This is probably what happened. And there was that. But me, time I took, I mean, you think of the most common things that happen. And infection, I thought taking a course of antibiotics and everything should take care of that. But yeah, by doing that the second week of December, nothing. It hadn't really improved, and it was just yeah, the whole thing was just making my system off. And I was just I just decided then that you know what, we're going to get to the bottom of whatever is happening in my intestine, whatever is making me unsettled. Let's know it once and for all. So I discussed with a colleague of mine in another department who linked me up with his boss who does colonoscopies. So basically, a colonoscopy is an examination where a tube, like a camera tube, is used to see the entirety of your large intestine. Right, so it's a procedure you do in the theater. And I was like, okay, at least this will answer questions, not just about what's going on right now, but probably everything that I'd experienced in the course of the year. I thought the diagnosis I had was something very different, or what I thought it would be, just kind of some inflammation, and yeah, something that can be addressed once we know what it's about, right? That led me on to the process. So I had it, like I had it on Saturday, which was about like 17th of December, and from then on, things just started going downhill. Going through the procedure was really, really painful. I got to know why later on. And then I was just feeling really ill. Became so weak. I mean, the process of even getting the procedure done was really weakening me. And it just worsened like that. I began to feel feverish, different things. Luckily, my father was in town that and just the doctor and everything just advised that, hey, let me actually go home, and because they live, my parents stay in Port Harcourt, so let me just go home, rest, cover, and all of that. This fortunately led me down this path of discovery, because what was found during the test, which I was not aware of yet, was that there was a tumor that was seen in my rectum. The rectum is the lowermost part of the large intestine, so right above your anus. Sorry if this is grossing anybody out, but yeah, I'm just telling it like it is. So there was a tumor there, and a biopsy was taken. So a sample was done to check what it was, see if it's cancerous and all of that. And after that, time I got to Port Harcourt, I did some scans, CT scans, things like that. Long story short, 2 weeks after that colposcopy, exactly the 30th of December, right? Yeah, the results of biopsy and everything showed that this is cancer, like an invasive kind of cancer. So it wasn't just that I was feeling bad in those whole 2 weeks, because I mean I was getting worse, like my symptoms were just beginning to escalate, right? So there was now the diagnosis that I had cancer, and there was a lot of confusion. First of all, being 27 years old at the time, what business did I have with cancer, especially that kind of cancer? In my whole medical practice, I had not seen anybody that young get that kind of cancer. And it was just okay. Where do we go from here? What could have caused this? Right. And now I'll kind of really dive into the emotions and people who are have either experienced this, gone through the same journey. Big shout out to all the survivors watching this, and then maybe if you have a close family member, friend, you know someone, you probably identify some of these things. Because it is a serious emotional roller coaster. Like your life just, it's like it's tumbled. It's everything now just feels like it's out of hand, because literally when you hear the word cancer, the most prominent thing that comes to people's mind, or the most prominent emotion, is fear, right? There's nothing good about cancer. We typically don't hear anything good about cancer. Most of the cases, especially in our part of the world, right, we typically hear bad things, like bad outcomes. So yeah, that whole cancer thing is kind of like, God forbid, you don't want it to ever happen to you or somebody you love. Um, yeah, so there was that fear, right? And in psychology, there's what we call the 5 stages of grief. For people who are familiar, you have, first of all, when you're grieving, when it's some kind of loss or something that hits you so bad, you go from being the first thing being denial, to having anger, to bargaining, like you're trying to basically, it's you trying to negotiate with this loss, almost. There's the depression, and then there's finally acceptance of what has happened. So people really go through these phases, I mean, at different times, but that is really how it feels like in cancer for many people. There's all by emotion, and you kind of progress from stage to stage. For me personally, uh, me having this unique situation of being both doctor and patient, I I watched my own colonoscopy video. I saw everything from when the camera went up, or seeing the tumor before I even saw the biopsy. So I could see, okay, I saw the tumor, I knew what this was. Based on the knowledge, I knew, okay, this is cancerous, this is nasty, this explains, because it was even bleeding. So this explains why I was having blood in my stool, why I was feeling pain, always stringing and all. So for me, there wasn't now per se. I was very certain of, oh, this is what is happening. But my denial, I would say, happened in the sense that I did not think it would be. I had my mind had not really gone to the fact that it could be stage four, like which is the advanced. In fact, I had stage 4B, which is literally the very last on the spectrum, which means it had spread to other places. This one had spread to different things, lymph nodes, my liver, and all. So I think in mind that was where the denial came in. I was thinking, okay, maybe like a straightforward like surgery or stuff until more subsequent scans were done, and it was like, geez, this is stage four. This is my life at 27 years old, out of the blue. Um, there is no history of cancer in my family. Um, not have any risk factors. Obviously, I'm not in the older age group. I try as much as possible to eat healthy food. I don't smoke. I don't binge drink. There was literally nothing like that I was doing in life that could have made this happen to me. So it was really, really confusing, right? And when you hear, I mean, cancer, I know everybody in a sense knows that cancer is not good and knows the fear attached to it. But me as the doctor, where I actually have the facts and the statistics uh, of how cancer can go. I mean, I've helped to manage cancer patients. I know how bad it can get, effects of treatments and all. So you can imagine knowing what you know. Sometimes is the knowledge, is the fact that you're not ignorant of these things that can really trip you. So yes, the fear was for this world. It was really like I had to be this thing. Is this kind of going to be it? Is this just how life is going to pan out? Yeah, so thinking, and then in my logical mind, and this is something that relates to many people can relate to. In my logical mind, okay, I've assessed things. I didn't cause this upon myself, right? But I still had to wonder. I was still confused. Like, how could this whole thing feature in my life? I remember back in medical school where learning about tuberculosis, different disease, learning about that, learning the treatment, how it takes like 6 months for them to be on drugs. I remember seeing this and be like, oh, this illness is terrible. This is something I definitely would never want to work like this. That one felt like the worst of it to me. So imagine not having tuberculosis, but now having cancer, which in all ramifications has a more dire prognosis. And I was just like, what is going on? How did I end up here? It was that whole situation. I as much as possible to be calm about it, especially like in initial phases. But it's in me, like you wonder when I'm by myself, my bed. It was yeah, overwhelming sometimes. And like how I said, my symptoms just to escalate. I mean, a few weeks into that, luckily enough, we had the means and the visa to be able to come to the US. I have three of my siblings here. So just in the bid to get the best care, the best treatment, which is really key. Obviously, this my symptoms kept escalating, and so like the emotions. It was crazy how my life had turned upside down. How I abruptly stopped work. I mean, talk about plans just haywire. I was supposed to be working the weekend that I did. But obviously that was toast for I was in another city. Next thing you know, I was in another country. It was a horrible Christmas and New Year for me. I mean, when people were celebrating New Year, it was just basically a race for my life. And I mean, when you're going through something like this, even if it's not an illness, it's like really bad struggling time. It feels like everybody else's life is going on as normal and moving forward. I mean, it may not be moving forward, they may have their own struggles, but it feels like that. Everybody's life is progressing. And so many times I felt like so stuck, and it was painful. It was truly, truly painful to be dealing with that. I mean, apart from the actual physical pain, which became terrible, like my prominent symptom was pain, like very unbearable pain that just kept getting worse. Even morphine couldn't couldn't stop my pain at some point. It was that bad. I was on continuous infusion of morphine, and still, it was terrible. So there's that emotion. there is also anger, like deep anger as to everything that's happening to you, how your life has turned around, turned upside down. Um, and then it's so easy to lash out, and people who have been there understand. Like you become so irritable because of everything going on. It's from the pain. I mean, the pain is really affecting you. You're lashing out. Things are not going well, lashing out. You're going through treatments, and it seems like it's not working or not progressing how you want it to work. It elicits this kind of deep-seated anger, and there was a lot of lashing out. I mean, I must confess, some moments were not my proudest, but yes, a whole lot of lashing out sometimes. People closest to me, sometimes it's my dad, sometimes it's somebody else, maybe trying to do, trying to be helpful or suggest things that I was just mood for or was just making me worse or more irritated. Yeah, we'll get to what the role of the support system is another time. But yes, that anger, really, really, really bad. Another thing which we don't get to talk about so much, and that's why it's important to have these conversations, especially around cancer, is guilt. Guilt is also a prominent emotion. I definitely felt it. And it's guilt for different reasons. You're wondering, oh, did you do this to yourself? Sometimes you know logically you didn't, but it's cancer really messes with your mind. So you begin to think, wow, out of left things. But yeah, you think about that. You feel guilty that your caregivers, so the people closest to you, people taking care of you, trying to assist you, the family, your close friends, and all, you feel guilty how their life has to change, the sacrifices they have to make, um, the resources that need to into cancer care, because cancer care is not a joke. Literally anywhere, it is not a joke. It's not a joke in Nigeria. It's not definitely not a joke in the US. No matter where you go, cancer treatment is expensive. Everything from the tests that need to be done to the herbs to your monitoring, everything. So I mean, I'm very thankful and deeply blessed that there was provision in that area that people were able to take care of that for me. Obviously, there was a lot of change that had to happen and sacrifice. But then I felt really guilty about that because it's like these resources that could be used for something else. And then there's always the chance. I mean, we don't pray for bad things, but there's always the chance that I wouldn't have made it. Like, would that all be down the drain, like for nothing? Like, would it be pointless at the end of the day? And these are things that minds of cancer survivors or people just in these difficult situations, health or whatever seems to be draining families' resources. So yes, the guilt, guilt is there. Self consciousness. Once you're in, I mean, the people's like bodies react to these things differently, but cancer generally, I mean, cancer as in a tumor that has spread or is spreading, can really ravage the body. It caused so many self-esteem issues for me. I mean, it caused me to really plummet. Not only was I losing weight and being having like skin, but things I'd never like experienced on my skin. I had like so much breakouts and whiteheads and blackheads and just things. My skin was just having a mind of its own. It was like the mirror was my worst enemy in those days because I look at myself like, wow, this is you? Like why are things this way? It was horrible. Like I felt so low. Really that shattered me. And then feeling quote unquote useless. Not that it's useless, but not useful like or as impactful as I typically would be. Now I am a very independent minded person, and to be in a situation where I'm just practically helpless, like, oh, I'm so tired and so like immobile that I can't even at some point I can't even have showers myself. Right. Somebody has to clean after me, clean me up, dress me up and all. It was not fun. It was a very hard time for me. A very, very hard time for me. So yeah, there was some self-loathing, like myself and wondering like, what the hell is going on? Like, is this my life? Like, when is this going to end? And I mean, all that like self-consciousness too is into um wonder, like, are people around you looking at you? Are they like judging you? So for me, I mean, having tools, having things like connected to me, having to alter the way I dress to cover up certain things, um or cover up like my really skinny legs and things like that. I used to feel, or when I'm walking outside or when I'm in public, like people are looking at me, people are probably wondering why does this girl look this way. There are certain times in like the airport, so we're doing like travel where I really could not do all the walking around and stuff, and I had to use wheelchair services. It's they're wheeling me, and I can just feel the eyes, like all of that. It's really tough me. And yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I these emotions times it is so hard to put it into like to really articulate what you're feeling, because sometimes I mean there's this thing we call flooding, another psychology term where it's there is different emotions happening all at once that you don't feel confused as to how you feel. And so many moments are like that, like it's just everything is just jamming your soul and it's so confusing. A lot of moments are like that. I mean, going through a cancer battle. um So yeah, it's crazy. And despite all these emotions too, though, there's also there's this hope, or you have to be hopeful in the sense that okay, the next scan that you do is going to tell you good news. Oh, the cancer is reducing. Oh, you're going to be able to make it. You kind of immerse yourself in, oh, see my loved ones, see, oh, I have to be able to be alive to witness, oh, this person's birthday or this event. I remember um, expecting my niece to be born like the following year, so in early 2018. And sometimes I get caught up in the, oh, will I ever get to meet her? Oh, but yeah, you have to maybe in your mind, as much as all these things are happening, and when the pain is really at its highest, it's you still kind of have to bring your mind back to being hopeful. Um, and that's really how it was. Now, I know by speaking with other survivors and other people who have gone through experiences, there's also this is also a personal experience, but another emotional, like really important emotional aspect for us to cover is for people who are married, so people who have a spouse and one partner has cancer. That can really impact on them, on their libido, reduce it, and cause a lot of frustration and sexual problems. Like that is something that happens. So there's the emotions that he has to deal with there, because at the end of the day, cancer is not just affecting you; it's affecting those around you, those who care about you. So the emotions can go all around, and it can be terrible. So yeah, going through all of that, it was a lot. I had a colostomy done, so this was in February, almost 2 months, well, 6 weeks after my diagnosis. I had to have a colostomy done. And basically, that means there is a surgery where they cut into your abdomen and then bring up a portion of your large intestine and connect it back to it on the outside. I had to do this because the tumor in the rectum had gotten like so large that I couldn't defecate like normally. There was too much strain, there was too much pain, like nothing could, like bowel movements couldn't just flow like that. So I had to have that, basically redirecting where stool is going to come out from. So imagine what some of us take for granted, which is the ability to just go to the toilet, do our business, and get out. Right? That had to change for me. I had to. my business in a bag, and it's like it's involuntary. It's not even something that you can control because it's coming from like the intestine. It's not like your anus that you have control over. So whenever it feels like, imagine having that bag, and it's something. There's a whole process and care that needs to go um, to that, and you're just, yeah, it changes life. It changes how, what kind of clothes you wear, how you move about um, in public, just a whole lot of change. So you feel, it's not logical to feel that way, but then you feel less, like you feel like a very altered human being. And it's easy. Then I'm just talking about even the cancer itself. But then there's what you go through in treatments. Now, cancer is a very tricky illness. It is, there's no one size fits all treatment, even for the same kind of cancer. So the treatments could bring their own wahala, so to speak. We've heard things about like chemotherapy, radiotherapy; those are common. So there's a way that one would also cause you to feel. For me, the most terrible of the side effects I had from the chemotherapy, which is what I started with, is vomiting. Like I threw up a whole lot. I threw up even like food. I threw up when there was no food in my system. So I'd be throwing up like stomach acid and bile and things like that. So all of that frustration to have this happening every time because you have your chemotherapy in cycles was very, very frustrating and wondering when the end is going to be. So yeah, cancer is just this thing that it changes you. It changes you forever in some way. There's the physical pain which many people have, and cancer pain is a terrible thing. It's not something I would wish on the worst enemy in my life. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Um, but yeah, there's the pain that can come with the illness. There is the emotional pain, which I mean, all these negative emotions I've mentioned is emotional, right? And then there is the scars, the physical scars. So thanks to all like surgery procedures, everything, I do have scars. I mean, I have one like here. I have different cuts on my abdomen, obviously where the colostomy was and all. And those things are like just reminders of like your journey and everything. Um, for people who have had breast cancer, for instance, and they've had to do surgery or a mastectomy, then there's the scar there. Like you know what has happened. There are people different kinds of cancers. Maybe they have to have artificial tubes or certain devices attached to them. All of that brings its own kind of emotion, and is kind. It's a constant reminder of what it is that you're facing when you're going through it. Um, and yeah, some of these things really traumatize you. I There's this at some point. So my journey of treatments was from started in the US, had some chemotherapy, radiotherapy done, came back to Nigeria, so came to Lagos because that is the center there that I was using. That's how I moved to Lagos. Did completed chemotherapy there. By the following year, went to India, tried to have surgery done, but it couldn't work because my cancer, the cancer in the rectum hadn't regressed as much yet. Then started immunotherapy, which is a different kind of treatment, which thankfully really helped. And then, um, yeah, basically did that. So was alternating between um, the India and Lagos, and also everything was fine. In September of 2018 was when, yes, when the final scans were done, biopsy, all tests were done, they gave me the all clear. No cancer cells were detected. So I was declared to be in remission, which is the term used for a cancer survival once there's no detectable cancer cells. So yeah, the 15th of this month is, well, pretty max it was 5 years. So there's I mean, there's a whole lot. It was literally ups and downs and ups and downs. And when you say somebody has ggone through the valley of the shadow of death, I would simply say I have been there. And yeah, there's some kind of traumas that follow you, right? So in my first stay in the Lagos hospital, there was this particular room I was in, and through to Nigeria and all the power outages, there was always an interchange between uh, the the regular power supply and generator. Right? And every time that happens, there is this particular sound like the AC makes. And I got so used to that sound. I mean, it's like a trigger for me. So that if I hear that sound anywhere, I immediately think chemotherapy. Like I've associated it with that sound. So in a sense, it's like PTSD from that thing. Obviously, the more detached you come, the more detached I am, or the longer time passes, the more detached I am from that thing. But it's like embedded in memory, right? So it's just there are things that just change life and about you. And then even when you're declared to be in remission, um, you just feel different. You go about life differently. Cancer definitely changed me in lots of ways. You go about life differently with like renewed meaning and vigor, and um, you're just more conscious of things, of things. I definitely have a more heightened sense of like awareness in terms of my health. I mean, I've been health conscious, but that has been having gone through the cancer experience definitely dialed that up, and sometimes to a healthy degree. Because if I feel a certain way in my body, if there's something that just happens, and then I mean, sometimes I try to push it away, but sometimes there'll be this one or two thoughts that come in. It'll be like, oh, I hope it's not linked to the big C, because yeah, with cancer, there's always that risk of recurrence, which is why once you're in remission, you're always told, you're always advised to have like checkups. So every 6 months, I get like checked. I'll do some blood work, I'll do some scans, just to see where we are with things. Um, and then yes, times when I feel off, I remember a particular time, like what was going on. I was I'm not even sure what was going on with my body at that time, but I was like eating. I was just in a very like voracious stage. I think this was last year, uh, ending of July into August. I was just eating like a lot. Like I had this, I had to just eat. Mini me changing. That thing was addictive for me. In the moment, I don't know what was going on, but I was eating, and then I had to think and see. I hope I don't have something. I was beginning to think, oh, hope I've not become like diabetic, or there's something going on. And I was like, see, it's good that I'm going to have my 6 monthly check soon. I was asking like for extra tests to be done. Let's know where we are, because I just don't want anything to catch me by surprise. If there's something that needs to be addressed, let it be addressed early. It's crazy. So yes, it can really mess with your mind. So there's that. And then another thing when it comes to cancer that can really weigh on you is you begin to really wonder, or reflect on your life. Now, this is something that will happen for me. Uh, you think about it and it's like, if this is really the end, if I go out like this, would I be happy with the life that I've lived? Are there things that I've put on hold that I shouldn't have put on? What are the things that I regret in this moment? And for me, it was a critical time of really assessing where I was, or in like my career and like just different things. What is it that I'm doing? What will I be kicking myself for not having done? And yeah, your regret. I mean, regrets can be really heavy sometimes for people. Thankfully, the things that I didn't feel great about, I have still have life and still had breath to kind of course correct, right? But yeah, that's also something, and of course, regret. We hear about old people who live old age and then they regret, or the career path they didn't choose, or maybe the kind of like business idea or something that they didn't do, or how they were not uh, really good spouses or good parents, and there's just things that they wish they were better at. Things like this, these near death experiences, really brings that to one's mind. Um, so yeah, that was maybe something for me. So now I'm going to share. I've kind of gone touched it about like the journey, and a lot of that is there's no way we can do everything in just this session, which is why thankfully I have a well detailed and written book that covers everything. But I've gone through at least the range, and I'm sure with people, I can't see the chat, but I'm sure people can identify with these things. So either personal experience or at least you can relate to it in some way. Like you said, it's not just about cancer; it's about life's difficulties generally. Now, what I would recommend, and what I would suggest based on my own personal experience, obviously, and then observation, is that when you are diagnosed with cancer, should you be diagnosed with cancer? I mean, we don't wish it on anyone, but cancer is no respect of persons. Cancer doesn't care about your age. Cancer doesn't care about your creed. Cancer doesn't care about like your beliefs. Cancer doesn't care whether you're saying necessarily saying God forbid or not. Like when people say, "Oh, it's not my portion," whose portion is it? Nobody for that kind of thing. Nobody wishes it on themselves. But should that happen, I would say, and this may not be a conventional thing, but I would say feel your feelings. It is very valid to feel your feelings. It's not something to suppress. It is not something to deny exists. Whatever it is, be it anything from you just feeling like really sad or depressed to you being outraged. Feel your feelings, right? Um, sit with yourself and that emotion be processed in whatever way it needs to be processed. Cry if you need to, rant if you need to. I mean, it would be great, obviously, not to be violent, because that would be a problem, but do what you need to do. And then research on the see some more. I know when I say research, I know there's like just temptation to just focus on Google. And we know when it comes to Google and medical things, it's a lot of it is doom and gloom and it will further depress you more. So it's not just about like trying to dig things on Google, but ask questions of your healthcare providers. Seek out good healthcare providers, oncologists, oncology surgeons, and ask the right questions. Get second opinions. Be very informed about what it is that lies ahead. It's not something that you should uh, try to avoid or try to run away from, because that knowledge is important. That knowledge in itself is power, and you have, based on what the options are, the pathways are. I can't tell anybody, oh, this is it's key you're supposed to do, or this is what you're supposed to do. But based on what the options are out there for you, you have the sense the say. You have that kind of control as to how you'll be managed. You can determine, oh, this is the course of treatment that you want to take, and that in itself does something good to like temper your emotions, to manage how things feel. Like you don't want to feel, yes, obviously when it comes to the cancer itself is doing its own thing and that is kind of out of your control, but how it gets addressed, how it gets managed, that one is in your control. So yes, do that. Things that help me cope. Now, things that help me cope. I call this, and people find this interesting, I call it positive distractions. So people see distractions sometimes as, oh, just problems or they're negative. No, distractions can be positive too. And it helped me. I had so many, so many symptoms, so many things were going wrong, from my skin to my me to, yeah, everything was upside down. But distractions that helped me, so I used to watch a lot of TV. I mean, Netflix, Hulu, all kinds of shows. I would watch home renovation shows. I would watch anything that was new, that was out. I'll do. I love food. I love processed cooking. I love seeing good food. So yes, everything on Food Network, any kind of food cooking show, I would binge on that. Um, I had insomnia. I had insomnia for over a year. So I was not sleeping. We slept by 2:30 a.m. Everybody's asleep. How I'm just there. Okay, it's time to sleep. I go to the bed and what's it there? Not really, kind of being out of sleep. It was never really a good, restful sleep. Right. So I had a house. I have time. I had nothing by time. And when you're suffering, when things are going badly, that's when time will be crawling. When you're having fun, time runs fast. Oh, wait, crawling. That so that helped. Light just very mindless kind of not anything heavy and mentally tasking. I was so fatigued. I was just not in the mood for anything. I was not those people, despite the suggestions to read, do this, do that. I was in the mood for any of that. I just couldn't. I didn't have the capacity to handle all of that. So, so the things I did, football. I'm a big football lover. So yes, watching EPL all day, whenever. It didn't matter that I was in a very different time zone. I would watch that. Fantasy football. I started playing it then. It was a good distraction for me. Wasn't particularly good at it, I must confess, but at least for 2 years, I was doing it. It was helpful. It was distracting enough. Social media is always, hey, social media is endless. You can scroll, 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 scroll. And these things on a normal day is not something obviously I would indulge in as actively, but I said in this particular moment when I just needed to do things that at least kept my mind off the negative emotions that I was feeling and distracted me enough. Yeah, it sufficed just fine. Um, and yeah, my one key thing, and is a serious, important, like life hack, I would say, and something that I don't really know how people are able to do it in their absence, is presence of a really good support system. Like I am so thankful to God, and I'm so grateful every single day for the kind of family and the close friends I have, because they were a rock, they were strength when they provided that kind of strength and that real support I needed in such a low moment, in such a confusing moment, such an uncertain will I live, will I not live moment. So, yes, support system. You need the people who care about you, the people who love you, the people who want good for you. Yeah, lean on them. It's really important to key into that. They're a gift to you in that time. Um, and mine were a serious gift. And there are a certain sect of people that I call walking angels who in the course of the book, you will see who my walking angels are for those who do read the book. But there are people who, even though we're not did not have a close relationship like early on, there are people who just kind of came into my life, featured in different parts of my life, and were of immense help in my cancer journey. Like people who are just so thoughtful and genuinely kind that it made a whole lot of difference. I had those people. I had those people. I had about 4 or 5 of those people, and really blessed. I would say God sent them my way. So I call them my walking angels. Very wonderful people. And yes, I talked about hope. And even though I did not always feel like it, even though sometimes I'm just like, oh, why is this happening to me? And why is the situation not improving? Why is it that okay, I go for this and it's not showing me what I want? Like it just feels like I'm taking one step forward, 3 steps backward. Why is it that I'm in so much pain? You can see that I'm in so much pain. And I'm I'm like literally crying. And I am like it's just I'm out of my head where it's just like, see, this thing needs to end one way or the other. Like you have to heal me or take me. Let this thing just end. Even when I was in like those moments, there was always still that hope. And yeah, God is going to do this someday. Like this cannot be how the story ends. So that really, really helped me. Now, cancer can really mess with your mind. I've said this one for again. But in a sense, right? My mind was literally the only thing that I had control over. In terms of yes, my body was being ravaged in ways I did not understand. But my mind, I had my mind. Strength of the mind is really important when going through cancer or any other difficulty, because a lot of the time that's where the battle can be won or lost. Right? If you It's important that you as bad thoughts are coming in, you're trying to push it out. Like it's an active thing. It's not like everybody's all like, be even like the rosiest person. Trust me, there are certain circumstances that when you face it or when you're in the middle of it, you understand. That's why you can't judge people until you're wearing their shoe. Um, and even at that, people are wired different. People deal with things differently. So ministering your mind is so key. So that's my recommendation first, starting with the mind. Getting enough rest is really important. It's really important because your body affects your mind affects your body. In this sense of emotions, it's important to, yeah, there's so much. Cancer and its treatments can really weigh you down. So as much um, rest as you can get. Like I said, I had insomnia, yes, but sometimes I can just like lie down and be there, like not do anything that would upset me too much. You understand how your body is feeling. Rest when you need to rest. Don't push it too much. Also, be alone when you need to be alone. I mean, one of the things that I used to choke me was when I'm in the presence of, it's all love, they love me and all, but certain times, especially when it came to my dad, like the whole hovering and just, oh, you okay, how you doing, how you doing, I just want to escape, I just want to like be by myself. At certain times you want to just be by yourself, you don't want to, you should withdraw, not that you want to remain withdrawn throughout, because that's not helpful. In the long run, that is not helpful. But when you need to be alone, be alone. Like when you need to say no, maybe certain demands that they feel like, all the times I was being told, oh, read this book, oh, go on this walk. I don't have energy for this. I can't do this. Say no when you need to say no. It's important, right? But being said, also allow people help you. And I know for us independent people, this can be such a struggle. Times you don't want to feel like a burden to somebody, you don't want to feel like so helpless in the situation and all. But sometimes you really just need to help. It's not a sign of weakness. It doesn't make you a weak, needy person. It's just, yes, in that moment you need help. And the same thing that you would do for somebody else, allow somebody to do for you. Right? And try and communicate. Communicate with people. Like if they're doing too much, like they're in your face every time is how are you? How are you? 5 minutes later is how are you? Oh, you see this, with love as much as possible. And I would own up and say that this is not something I was always great at. Like I said, I lashed out sometimes. But as much as you can, communicate people, let them know like where you are on these things. Something that is really good for people too is being able to journal their thoughts. So people going through, I mean, whatever kind of struggle, it helps when you offload your thoughts onto paper, or if you're somebody that would rather type things on pages on your device. Do that. Journal, just kind of throw thoughts out there. It doesn't need to be in this impeccable writing fashion or anything, just as you feel right. That process of journaling can be really helpful. And hey, there's always this archive of what your state of mind was at a particular time, such that months down the line you can, oh, this was what I thought, this was how I felt in this moment. It's always nice to kind of have that point of history captured. So it's something that you can try out and it'll be helpful. Um, and then, I mean, having candid conversations. One of the key reasons why I have like sessions like this, or why I read my book, things like that, is because there's such a gap when it comes to having really open conversations about things like this. Like so cancer can be like, oh, that thing that you shouldn't near me, because there's all this like shame and stigma and just negative energy around the whole thing. But it's important to have conversations. You can have that with your, I mean, it could be your family or friend, it can be with the healthcare provider, they can be with a support group, Support groups kind of exist for everything these days. There is a community for everything, even for cancer survivors. People at different stages. Cancer survivorship just means anybody who has had that, or a cancer survivor means anyone who has had a diagnosis of cancer. So right from diagnosis, right? Whether you're going through the treatment, you're not going through the treatment, you're in remission. For cancer survivors, there are communities. I'm part of those communities even now, still have interactions and all. There's really power in being able to communicate with, like openly communicate with people with a shared struggle. Um, and You just voicing it sometimes, there's this way it disempowers like the enemy or these bad negative thoughts. So it's something that you can start doing step by step. Just find communities. There are always the ones around, even if it's not physically, virtually. Yes. And what I would say to kind of tie this all in and wrap this all up is that it doesn't feel, it's especially when you're literally at this low point and things are just so uncertain. Maybe you're just having bad report after bad report from your scans, for your labs and all. Regardless of all of this, I don't know what your faith is. I am Christian, right? Regardless of how things look, please, 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 what I really want you to take away from this whole thing is that you keep hope alive. Keep hope alive, like against all odds, even when it doesn't make sense. And I'm not saying this very likely, right? Because I talked about the mind where everything starts. Mentally giving up really is sometimes the difference between those who are able to beat this and those who aren't. Because humans really need hope. You need to be hopeful of what you're going to do tomorrow for you to want to live to tomorrow, for you to want to live to next week or years from now. We what really forces us and drives us is hope, hope for future, hope for something happening down the line. So once you give up mentally, your body can quickly follow. So it's important. And always know that miracles exist. Miracles do happen. I am, hey, if you need to see, if you need any reminder of that, like you have a living, breathing miracle like in front of you. Do you want me to give you the stats for that kind of cancer? It was stage 4B. The stats, like for you have a 5 to 7% chance of making it beyond your first year of diagnosis. That was the kind of start. Those were the odds. Like so basically practically 93 to 95% of people do not live beyond say after diagnosis. And even much more uh pass on after that first year. The people who do survive, people much more of them pass on after that. Right. And this is not to like for you because yes, a lot of people like get on cancer, but I'm here. 5 years later, like I'm still here. Fine. Um and just as we hear like the bad things, cancer, this is the kind of story that you want to also know and like cling on to. Because miracles really do still happen, right? Miracles really do still happen. And that's really why I wrote this book. This rooftop really is about like my struggles and my triumph over stage 4 cancer. That's really what it's about because I'm candid about everything that went through and how I got up to the stage, how my life has changed, things that improved, so many things. I've had so many good things happen post that, and there's still so much more I'm looking forward to. Um, and this has been such a growth experience for me. Um, and I needed it to share. It's something that needed to be said. I remember um, in February of 2017, like I remember this really, really clearly, when I was hospital admission for like 3 weeks after experiencing like literally what still stands as the worst day of my life. It was so bad and being able to kind of get past that. And when I was being discharged, I remember having a conversation with my cousin, and I was like, "See, like if I ever get through this, I'm going to scream it from the rooftop." And there, that's when the for this book was conceived. I was like, "No, me getting through this book must be written, and this story must be told and shared with the world, because more people to need to understand what a cancer battle is really like. More people need to understand." Uh, like the kind of struggles, kind of torture, the way it affects things, the fact that it is no respecter of like persons, and but the fact that hey, people beat the odds, the fact that you can be courageous and you can be inspired by this, and other people like you, other people you know, can make it through. like miracles literally still happen, right? So yeah, that's really it. That's really my story. I've since transcended. I call myself a phoenix because literally I've gone through the fire and I've come out better on the other side. And everything is captured in my book, which you could get. You can get it. It's available on seller.co. It's available on Amazon, right? So those are, I mean, it's going to change you. Every time I somebody reads it and I get feedback, people feel changed for the better. So yeah, that's it. That's really my story.
Fantastic, fantastic, Doc. I'm just going to ask you two questions. And the first question is something a lot of us deal with. Did you at some point feel like, okay, this is 8 p.m. now, so I'm still in my office, and as you know, over here we have some issues with power. So just in case you see me in the dark, don't I'm still here, right? So two things. Number one is, did you feel like God let you down? You know, there's this thing about you're in God, you're a Christian, God won't let you feel pain, God won't let you down, God is going to save you when you're in trouble, you know, all those things we've known about our faith.
Yeah.
Did you
So
feel God let you down? How did you still believe in God despite the pains and what you were going through?
mm,
You know, yeah.
yeah. So for me, I'm glad you asked this question. I I questioned and I really had conversations with God about this, like personally. I would be like, I don't understand, this whole everything happens for a reason. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, like all those things we know about it theoretically. Me, I was trying to understand why is it like of all the things that could make me better, I had to go through. Like, why was it cancer? Why did God allow it to happen? What's the theory here? Like, I mean, when I uh, sometimes think, probably people think about this too when you think about Job and how like his life was fine, his family was wealthy, was everything, and then God allowed the devil to come mess with his life and kill his kids and do all kinds of things. And remember, you really know the story. You'd be like, please, I don't want to have any kind of cross like Job. Or, like that's not what happened in my life. So having this happen to me, that's where I went to. Like, okay, why is God allowing this? I know it's not that He wants to make me suffer. I'm like His child. And I did not, like, for once question like God's existence. Is He real and all of that? But it was, why did I have to go through that? And when He can see that I'm at my wits' end and in this much pain, why is he not intervening? Why is he not doing something about it? So there are moments like that, especially at the height of my pain, I questioned. I mean, but God has a way of, let's say, seeing you over the line and just like speaking to you through certain things, which maybe in hindsight is when you figure out, okay, that was God doing this. So yeah, I asked question. I was very candid with God when I'm talking to Him, like I'm bearing my soul that see this thing. That's why I mentioned how at some point I'll just be like, this has to end one way or another. Like this pain has to end. So you're either going to heal me or you're going to take me. Um, so yeah, but when you're able to kind of go through those phases, it solidifies your faith like even more. By the time you see it's hand, then He really comes through for you. Yeah, it just kind of connects your faith. So that was the situation for me.
Okay, so in your study you spoke about traveling to Lagos and then to India and then to US. This involves a lot of money.
Mm,
I know for a fact. I mean, look at people who may not have that kind of money and they are struck with such predicaments. What are your takes, really? It can be a very, very benumbing moment for a lot of individuals. For example, you've got this diagnosis and there's hope somewhere, but the fact that you can't spend that much money, that a lot of money to be able to get to your healing.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, what have been your takes regarding that? You
yeah.
know,
So, I mean, I am really, really fortunate that at least within my family members, my treatment was able to be handled. Obviously, sacrifice, but I know that that is not the situation for many people, right? So, there are people who like whatever they've saved. They end up spending or whatever their family has saved, they end up spending. Some people have to sell off assets just to like raise the funds, and these are ways to go. These are the most obvious ways. So in addition, like people who don't need funding, there are two other things that I would also advise people to look into. um, Things that can be very uncomfortable and just puts you in a very like place emotionally, but when you need the help, you need the help. The first is they're reaching out to foundations who help people with cancer treatments. There are a good number of them. Like for instance, there's the foundation affiliated with my hospital in Lagos, who I also collaborate with, work on projects together. Even now, the Foundation for Cancer Care in West Africa. That's an example of a foundation that helps, I mean, gives financial aid wherever they can to people going through treatment who can't afford it. So one has to see, do a whole lot of research. If you don't have like the energy, you the survivor yourself don't have like the energy or like the people know how, maybe somebody, your family member or friend can do some digging, ask some questions. Even like the healthcare providers probably have like contacts within these foundations. So that's a good place to look and just yeah, hopefully you learn something. The other thing which makes people even more uncomfortable is crowdfunding campaigns. So the likes of, I mean, the popular one we know is GoFundMe. Last I checked, I don't think somebody who is resident in Nigeria can be the one to set it up. Typically, they have their friends, maybe abroad, like link it with them. We know how many payment things can be a hassle if you're trying to originate it from Nigeria. But that's one way to go. Obviously, there is the having to make your business public, which many people, I mean, understandably don't like to do. Is start talking about your cancer and all details, and like you're begging people for money and all of that. Obviously, there's the emotional baggage to all of that. But in this situation, when you need the help, you need the help. It's very okay, I would say, to ask. It's not you trying to scam people, or it's not like you haven't looked at any other option. Like you exhausted your savings, you've done what you can. Just putting it out there and helping, getting your family, your friends, people you know to help spread the word. And good willing people have many people have successfully raised a whole lot of money doing that, and something you could track. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you so much. Tell us a lot more about your book. I mean, you've written a book. A lot of people, individuals, were kind of so you went through cancer, and now you've written a book.
Yeah.
I mean, show us the book. We need to see the book, and then tell us a lot more about this book, please.
Okay. Yes. So the title of the book is, let me put it this way. Yes. So it's Rooftop: My Struggles and Triumph Over Stage 4 Cancer. Now, in this book, I've basically detailed everything from the days leading up to my diagnosis, to everything through the treatments, the ups and downs, everything till like my remission. So I think from literally everything, it's very like very detailed. And like I mentioned, it's really to make people aware of what a cancer battle journey is really like. I mean, I love it when I have survivors who read this and it's like, yes, this is like how I felt. They can relate to this. And then I love it when some of people even knew me through that time, like had no idea like all this was going on with me. So the people that you could just be, I mean, living with kind of know going through this, but then you don't really know the depths of it. So it's very enlightening, first of all. The second thing is it's going to give a lot of insight into how you can be of help to them as a loved one, like the do's, the don'ts, the things that will be very helpful, much appreciated, and things that you should rather dress from. Because sometimes we obviously with the best intentions, but then the execution is not full. So those two are key, even for the healthcare providers, so people who are doctors, nurses, uh, every other healthcare staff. You really sometimes when you're just coming from that healthcare, you're just looking at things through that healthcare lens. You don't really know what your patients are going through. You don't really know how things are with this journey. So, yes, I'm shedding a lot of light on that. So, everybody that has a stakehold somehow, some way in this whole ordeal. And then, yes, like I said, it's really about giving, helping you be inspired, helping you be inspired to, get through like a difficult phase. It could be cancer, it could be another illness, it could be difficulties financially, it could be difficulties with like your career, with relationships, whatever it is. We all go through hard times to different degrees. So this is really about hope, or yes, being strong in your mind. It's really about helping you, like your scene, helping you, like you too can get through this, you can get through this phase, you can be able to write your own story, have a better story like after this. Many people can be changed in different ways from hardships, right? I know going through this has made me a better person. And being able to live a very intentional life, one that's authentic, one that is happy, one that leaves me fulfilled. And I know we'll have a separate session to really go into that. But yes, everything is captured in the book. I've had interesting life, a blessed life, which I'm really grateful for. Said this when it comes to something like this happening to you, it puts a whole lot in perspective. It puts a whole lot in perspective as to your life. Started okay doing medicine, just being that medical doctor. Yes, I had a healthcare business I was running concurrently, but that whole thing made me reevaluate and see what I want to do. And I knew, okay, the business is what I wanted to face. I've been able to have a whole lot of like growth in that thing. Post the experience, I've been able to take on challenges. I've been able to go into the world of coaching and education with personal finances, helping people with their money and all that. Together, it's just really about being able to. I wouldn't ever say that. Oh yay! I'm glad I had cancer because it was not fun. But I'm happy for the gift that cancer gave me, which was able to like course correct and align my life in the way that I wanted to go, and have the whole transition that I've had. Really been able to know what truly makes me like happy, makes me really fulfilled and joy as humans. And yeah, what we don't want to go is kind of go through life just stumbling through, going through the motions. You want a life that is like rich and meaningful and makes impact. All about making impact. And um, this book was possible not just because I survived, but also because I'm good at writing and being able to use that to be able to bless people. Because yeah, I get time and time again, I get very interesting feedback and really heartwarming feedback about this book and how it's changed them. And I know you you are it's going to improve your life too in some way. You don't need to go through cancer. You don't need to have a loved one who goes through cancer, but it's change you too. And like I mentioned, it's available on Seller. Yes, seller.co. I don't know if it's possible to drop links here in this meeting, but it's available on seller.co for 4,800. Can go to
Yes,
anywhere.
it's possible to drop links.
Okay, okay. Probably I should just do that then. And then it's available on Amazon. Also available on Amazon. Let me try this.
What's the link on seller? Seller.co/what?
Slash rooftop. Let me put that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then let me put the Amazon link. I'll put that too.
Okay, guys, if you have questions for Dr. Izumwa, please ask in the comment section. I know that this is a very these kinds of sessions are quite I don't know, it can make your energy to be down. They're quite
Yeah.
somber moments of our lives. If it's about
Yeah.
money now, we're like, oh, money.
Exactly. This is it's not a how to make money kind of session
So,
now.
but this is, I mean, there are quite some somber moments, taking me, making me to think, making me, I don't know. Sometimes all the thoughts as we are sharing, I mean, as we are talking about your symptoms, I just have to block my ears, because it made me to start feeling certain things. Okay, so guys, if you've got questions, please, the book is available on Seller, as you can see, seller.co/rooftop. You can go get yours. It's also available on Amazon for those who are not in Nigeria. I see someone who's watching from Jande Ouattara, watching from Abidjan. So I think you can also get yours on Amazon, right? I can see Flora. Flora is saying that you need to be hosted on the program. Please, Flora Gaptoni, Agnes, please, you can connect her to share her story on the program. That's why we're doing what we're doing. We need her story to go farther than where the story is now, or the places where the story has reached. All right. So please connect to her and please host her so that she can share her story. I really would love that. So guys, if you've got questions, um, I think for the next 15 minutes we can answer questions. I'm really happy that our power people have not done their bid, because usually at 8 o'clock they
Yeah.
shut down over here. So, but then I'm happy that the power is still on. So,
Mm.
guys, if you have questions, please do ask so that she can answer. All right. I think I'm done with all my questions for her. You know, so if you got your own question, please ask her, and let her let her answer. If you don't have questions, maybe we can call it a day. I'm going to bring her on again for next week. We have another session next week, another topic to be discussed regarding our health, and then we do another one in upper week. So, Doctor will be coming back to also share. But most importantly, please do follow her. Follow her what she shares, and I mean, she drops from nice pictures and some nice content, you know. So follow her and see what she does, and read from her experiences, and most importantly, buy the book. It's important that you can. If you don't want to read for yourself, maybe someone else who's going through such issue. Maybe it may not be cancer, it could be any other kind of ailment, and the individual may be losing hope, or looking for something to just keep time going, right? So get the book, and let the book be given as a gift to someone. Okay, so guys, I think there are no questions. I think we are going to wrap it. So, Doc, what are your final on this session? What are your final takes, or your final um, pieces of advice, whichever?
Mm. So I would say, first of all, in the course of the last one, maybe just over 1 week, I've had nothing less than four people like reach out to me and talk about, oh, a friend, a family member, someone they know, someone they love, they care about has just been diagnosed with cancer, and somebody struggling and all. And it's like just makes me so like emotional about it, because this is something that is so tough to deal with. And with what the stats are, the current reality, I mean, this cancer business is much more common than we would like to admit. And the projections are not good for what is going to happen by 2030, 2040, 2050. Like I would put it to you that every single person, like take me out of the picture, every single person knows at least one person who has had a diagnosis of cancer. It tells you the reality is we're going. So this thing is not something far from us. It's not, we cannot be, just be God forbidding it. This is how life is. This is just something that happens. But then what I really want us to know, even though it is extremely tough, and I've said this over and over again, is that there is hope. Cancer is not an automatic death sentence. It's not something that, oh, once it happens, that's the end. Just give up, just throw in the towel. Um, Many people have beat this. I'm one of them. I'm very grateful to be one of them. But yeah, it's important that people are aware of stories like mine, and that people know kind of ways to go about like coping. We've talked extensively about the emotions, right, and ways that you can cope. Because people will have to the method that works for them, but it's knowledge is where it all starts from. You have to know things and know the right things to do and know the things that can help you. And hey, miracles literally still happen. Do your part and let God do His. That's what I would say. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Thank you, everyone who has watched this. Really grateful for the time. And sure the recording will be available for other people who maybe couldn't watch live. So yeah, those are my final thoughts. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm gonna pin our session on my timeline so everybody who didn't tune in can actually watch this. So thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much for being part of this. Thank you so much, Doc. I'm very grateful. And thank you for being beautiful despite what you've been through. I mean, I went to your timeline and I was just busy checking all your fine pictures, you know. So despite all the things you've been through, you're looking beautiful. And
Yeah.
thank you for inspiring faith and hope in all of us. We'll talk after this via WhatsApp so that we can plan for the next week. So thank you and thank you so much. God bless you for all the work that you're doing and for the greatness that you exude. See you again next week, and to you guys all the way from here in the city of Port Harcourt and from from United States of America. God bless you for tuning in, and we look forward to you being part of the conversation again. God bless you.
Bye.